Hey there, I have a special announcement. From May 22nd through May 28th, I'm rerunning my most popular episodes of your weekly dose of higher consciousness, all of which are what I call foundational basics. And I understand that we need to hear what I speak about more than a few times until it really starts to sink in. And be forewarned, these are from almost 5 years ago when I first began. So I may sound a bit different than I do now. I know I feel a lot different than I did back then. So I hope you enjoy these. And then next week, you're going to find out all about something new I'm cooking up here in Colorado, just outside of Aspen. How's that for a little name dropping? In the meantime, this is your last chance to enroll in Eckhart Tolle's all-new 4-month-long immersive program for his very popular online course, The Spiritual Guide to Conscious Manifestation, where you're going to discover your true creative powers and fulfill your highest purpose. It begins with a 4-day online retreat, May 30th through June 2nd, and you can still access his free mini video series or enroll in his program at the mindbodyspiritnetwork.com/Eckhart Tolle, all one word, or click on the links below in the podcast. Now on for today's episode. Hey there, it's that time again when I do your weekly dose of higher consciousness quiz, just to help you understand consciousness and energy fields. So today's quiz asks, which of these three things is of highest consciousness? Is it being mutually beneficial, just that state of being mutually beneficial? Is it keeping up appearances for show, which is like keeping up with the Joneses for show? We'll talk about what that is. And the last one is the togetherness, the beingness of togetherness, that kind of state of being when you're gathering around others and being together. So those are the three I want you to kind of think about while we get into today's topic. But before we do, my name is Liz Garcia. I'm your happy host of your weekly dose of higher consciousness quizzes that you can find at highvibetriberadio.com on the podcast and High Vibe Tribe TV on our YouTube channel. I'm founder and editor-in-chief of the mindbodyspiritnetwork.com, which brings you this podcast. My intention with these higher consciousness quizzes is to put consciousness, which is kind of like, what the heck does that mean? And really, they're just impersonal energy fields. That's all they are. That have been measured as to what kind of energy they're holding into context based on the scale of human consciousness and the map of spiritual progress, which are all based on the teachings and the consciousness research of Dr. David R. Hawkins. And they're intended to help you start to feel, discern, or intuit your way to the truth about things. You can stop guessing and start understanding. So it's interesting to understand, first of all, that according to consciousness research, only 2% of the planet cares about the truth. And you may care about the truth, but not on every topic and not at all levels. So don't get up in arms, but just be aware that the scale of human consciousness is vast, and which is a logarithmic scale of 0 to 1,000, where everything above 200 holds truth, some level of truth. And the highest truths can be understood and experienced when you start to get into the 500s and above, and the 600 and above on the map of consciousness are the highest truths in consciousness, and would be for advanced spiritual students that care about what's known as enlightenment. And the pursuit of enlightenment is a radical pursuit in general, mostly because of where we live, of planet Earth. It's a very radical and different state of being, which I have experienced high states of consciousness. I never had any conscious intention of pursuing enlightenment, but I am interested in understanding where truth is in consciousness, because I've suffered tremendous experiences not of this world. It's how I got into this whole thing. And the topic of consciousness is really abstract and, higher level understanding. So I feel like to help you understand it more easily, these quizzes put things into context, and you're like, and there should be no surprise, right? The calibrations of the things that we talk about in the quiz shouldn't be a surprise. Some are high vibe, some are low vibe. You can, some of them are obvious, right? But when you get into the higher consciousness stuff, when everything's of higher consciousness, you're not quite sure where it may fall on the scale. So let's get to today's quiz, and let's see how well you did. So again, we're looking at the level of consciousness of the being mutually beneficial. A situation or you or an event is mutually beneficial in some way. The energy of that, we're looking at that. We're looking at the energy of keeping up appearances for show. And we'll talk about what that is. And then the final one is togetherness. So what do you think is of highest consciousness? And again, something being of higher consciousness than the other is not better. It's simply, in my understanding, holds more significant spiritual truth than a lower one, or it's not even required. The energy of a certain way of being doesn't require anything more than it is. So there is no judgment. It's just, you can choose, being of higher consciousness. All of them are beneficial because they're constructive and positively oriented and uplifting, regardless. You don't have to be a highfalutin, enlightenment seeker to be of higher consciousness at all. There's many, many fields that you can choose to be and have a nice life. Okay, so let's go to the answers, and maybe I will start with the lowest level of consciousness. And typically I choose things that are all of higher consciousness, but I'm like, that doesn't serve us to not understand what's low vibe. So if you guess that keeping up appearances for show is the lowest level of consciousness, it calibrates below 200, this way of being holds no truth. It's downward pulling, destructive, and you're kind of in denial about the truth of things. So, according to the dictionary.cambridge.com, to keep up appearances for show is to pretend to be happier, less poor, less unemployed than you really are, because you do not want people to know how bad your situation is. I don't know about you, but I can completely relate to this. And the calibration of this is 195 on the scale of consciousness and the map of spiritual progress. So it's clearly a state of denial. You're not accepting where you are. And it doesn't mean, when you start to accept that you're unhappy or you're poor or you're not living your fullest life, then things can start to change, because the energy of acceptance is 350, which is 10 to the 350th power. So I always encourage you to do the math. So if you are in a state of keeping up appearances for show with others, my advice would be to go neutral on it and stop trying to keep up appearances. Like, like, just be neutral on where you are and accept it. You don't have to talk about it. You don't have to put it out there. But you don't have to put it on a show anymore. Like, stop. There's one way that I do it, and that is I like to be generous when I go out to lunch or dinner with somebody. And I'm in situations where I can't afford to do that, but I do it anyway because I want to be gracious and all that. But you know what? I got to accept and face the fact that I can't afford it. I can't afford to be doing that as much as I like to. So I got to stop doing it and accept that I'm not there yet. And when I am there, I will gladly go back to being gracious and generous. That's when I finally recognized that I was operating from this keep up appearances level, and I was blind to it. So it's good to bring it into your awareness. So that's the lowest level on today's quiz at 195. I highly recommend you let go of it and become neutral on the subject. Stop trying to put up when you find yourself doing it, putting on a show, stop it. Like, just go neutral and say, you know what, I'm not, you can admit I'm not that happy, but I'm doing my best to turn it around. I'm accepting that I'm unhappy and don't have the finances I would wish for. I'm accepting where I am. I'm going to let it go and go into neutral about it. Like, just feel neutral. Don't blame and shame yourself. And if you can accept this is where you are, that's a quantum leap up in energy. So what I like you to look at is, if you can accept this is where you are, that's 350 on the map of consciousness, which is super high vibe, super powerful, and the energy of that is going to start to shift you out of that feeling of having to keep up appearances anymore, for one. Like, get out of that energy field. That's no good. It's self-destructive and not helpful. And in fact, there's another thing in this energy field that I came across that I found very helpful to me in understanding why I can't change my situation, why it's been difficult. And this other energy field that is related to this is called self-scrutiny. So when you continue to examine your own thoughts and feelings, and certainly your past and whatever, is self-scrutiny, is the same energy field, 195, which is destructive, and then you're going to stay stuck in a rut. So I accepted I've been doing this for a long time to some degree. And if things aren't changing in my life, here's the energy field I keep calling myself into: this, self-scrutiny, and keeping up appearances. So going to neutral is 250, which is a quantum leap in power. So you're essentially inviting in the energy of neutral to help you offset these energy fields you don't want to be a part of anymore. You want to let them go? Neutral's going to do it in a powerful way. So is acceptance is going to do it in a powerful way, along with forgiving yourself for not knowing it better. Acceptance and forgiveness are both 350 on the scale of human consciousness, which is 10 to the 350th power. It's a huge quantum leap in power from the energy of self-scrutiny at 195. Right? That's 10 to the 195th power, but it's negatively oriented and destructive, whereas over 200, you flip the switch into constructive, positive, uplifting, powerful. All right. So there's the first one. What's next? What is of higher consciousness? What's next on the map? Would it be something that's mutually beneficial, or the togetherness, the beingness of togetherness, that kind of energy field of togetherness? Well, if you guessed mutually beneficial, you are correct. And the energy of mutually beneficial is approximately 220 on the map of consciousness, which is upward pulling, inspired, constructive, worthwhile to be mutually beneficial. Another phrase here is equally beneficial, which is calibrated at 225, and that's from the Dr. Hawkins' book, Truth versus Falsehood. It's the level of positive energy. And mutually beneficial, here's a little definition, is essentially it's the minimum to benefit all parties. For example, stockholders, employees, and customers. This is part of my choice as a business, is to be mutually beneficial and win-win, which is win-win is in here, so that everyone that comes to the website, listens to the podcast, whatever, that would be, the mind, body, spirit. Now, in general, is my choice is to be win-win. So it serves customers, listeners, people that visit the website, employees, my affiliate partners, all of us, everyone that's connected. This is our matrix of high vibe, right, that I'm intending here and creating. I choose win-win for this business that I engage in, and anything that I engage in, right? I have situations that I do a little prayer to God. I'm like, God, I choose win-win in this situation for both parties, right? Everyone included, all stakeholders. That's what the term all stakeholders means, everyone connected to this particular thing. So mutually beneficial starts at 220. Equally beneficial is at 225, which is a quantum leap above 220 when you know your logs, 10 to the 220th power versus 10 to the 225th power. That's a significant leap in consciousness. And it may have to do with the word mutually has a little different energy meaning than equally. Mutually beneficial versus equally beneficial. And then win-win is of the highest level at 230. So the energy or the kind of spiritual truth held in the win-win energy field must be, I'm guessing, is of a higher nature. So that's the second one. And if you guess that the highest level of consciousness on today's quiz is togetherness, you would be correct. And togetherness is a very high level of consciousness at 440, which is a quantum leap above the other two. So there's a whole bunch of higher level truths being held in this consciousness, this energy field is my guess. And togetherness is described from that dictionary.cambridge.org as the pleasant feeling of being united with others in friendship and understanding. And I've been a bit of a loner for far too long, and I understand, I've been yearning for socialization and togetherness for a long time. And my friend invited me to a dinner party this weekend, and I'm like, oh my God, I so miss this. It's not like me to be a loner. It's not my nature at all. So any opportunity, life was created for us to be together. This is clearly a signal to that. To choose to be a loner and hide away, which is of lower consciousness to some extent, depending on your own level. Enlightened people that are on the path to enlightenment can be alone because they need to be alone, just to integrate those higher frequencies and understanding, is my guess, based on my own experience and the experience of others, beings who have sought enlightenment. So if you're tending towards, hiding away and not being with others, it would behoove you to let go of the lower in this and at least come into some sort of neutral. Although, there's a lot of people that just prefer to be alone by nature, so I can't really say this is true. But if your nature is not to be alone, then understand to follow your nature, to socialize and be with others in this energy field of togetherness is highly constructive and beneficial to you at 440. It's beneficial to all of us, really. That energy field is a superpower. So that's today's weekly dose of Higher Consciousness Quiz, which doesn't come every week, just the podcast does. The podcast comes every week, but the quizzes are coming around once a month, every 4 to 6 weeks, something like that, wherever it ends up in the rotation. But there's tons of past episodes on the quizzes that you can go and check out. in the podcast. And I created a link on the website, themindbodyspirit.com. Let me just check where that is. I'm pretty sure it's just, let me look. In any event, I'll create a link that's called themindbodyspiritnetwork.com/quiz, and you can access all the quizzes I've done to date. So that's it, and let me see what next week's podcast holds for us. Let's see what we're going to do next week. I'm going to find some sort of tool for personal transformation I'm going to share with you. So that'll be next week's quiz, and then the week after that is the 1001 Ways of Being of Higher Consciousness, and then we'll be back to kind of a main topic discussion the week after that. So that's essentially the lineup, and then we'll hit a book again. So that's kind of that's like 6 different things. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different things that we kind of rotate through there and share every week. And events are not in there. Oh, okay. Well, in any event, we got lots of different topics. I'll see you next week. Hey there, Lovey Lou. If you are new to your weekly dose of Higher Consciousness podcast or an avid listener, I have something just for you. I created a landing page with all of my playlists in one place. So for new listeners, I created a playlist called Foundational Basics. This is where you will want to begin to come up to speed on your understanding of the map of consciousness, a proven energy scale for realizing your ultimate potential by Dr. David R. Hawkins, and with where we are now. For avid listeners, I've created playlists for all of my popular topics like 1001 Ways to Be of Higher Consciousness, 1001 Ways to Let Go of. Those great higher consciousness quizzes that helps you test your intuition and develop discernment skills, tools for transformation, high vibe book recommendations, and my general main topics. You can find all of these playlists on the website at themindbodyspiritnetwork.com/podcast. Or you can find it in a link below in the show notes. Now back to today's episode.